Hey everyone, welcome my bud and fellow designer advocate at Figma. This is Joey Banks. He's been on before. Joey, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Joey. I'm a design advocate at Figma. Before Figma, I was at VertaHealth, so I was a product designer in healthcare. But yeah, just really love Figma and was having lots of conversations with people to actually bring them into Figma. So yeah, decided to join the company last year. Thanks for having me on again, Rogie.
Yeah, of course, you're a fan favorite, and I'm Rogie as well. You've all met me. I'm a designer advocate at Figma as well. This is Office Hours. This is our weekly stream where we leave a lot of time for Q&A. We leave about half the time for Q&A, but we also share on a topic that hopefully we've researched a little bit and some things to help you with your workflow. Today, we're actually talking about 5 amazing remote design resources. 5 is a loose term there. I think we have like 8 now. But hopefully things that can help your team in communication. Joey's done a really great job about rounding up a lot of these things. So we'll be sharing links. I'm gonna let Joey go first, and then I'm gonna assist him by sharing links to the chat as well. So that way you can pick up on plugins or community files or whatever we need. But Joey, I just wanna let you know that I've invited Joey to this document here. We're gonna go ahead and attempt like we're a little mini team, a team of 2.
Yes.
So to showcase these things, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to Joey's screen so we can show what this master is doing. Let's go on over there. There's Joey's screen.
Hey, it's me. Cool. Yeah, so there are so many resources, and I'm excited to show a couple of them off. And it's kind of fun because a lot of these we've actually had the creators on live streams in the past. Like this one here is actually by a designer over at Microsoft. Her name is Vic, and yeah, she created this amazing remote design sprinting template that you can download from the Figma community. And I think we can send out links to all of these after, or it's really easy just to go ahead and search these. But so if I duplicate this file, I kind of wanted to walk through like what is inside of this one. This one is kind of a behemoth, as in there's so much inside. So the very first page in here, she actually includes all sorts of things. They're basically a how-to, like a readme of this file. So you have, what is this? Like, who is this for? And if you are a designer at your company and you all are maybe wanting to do more sprints or thinking about sprints or really just wanting to find ways to interact with each other a little bit more when it comes to like the design process, I think this is a really cool place to get started. I know Rogie's poked around in this file a little bit. We've poked around in it at Figma, and it's been a really popular one. So just kind of want to share like what's happening inside of this. So it's actually really cool. She provides a couple of instructions on like how to get started and, really what a remote design sprint entails. So a couple of resources in here as well. She has prerequisites, of course, like, need a good internet connection, laptop, all these things, right? And we'll get into this plugin as well, but she actually includes several illustrations for timers that you can use the plugin timer to actually kind of use in conjunction with it, which is pretty cool. So we'll go through this. Here are a couple of the other timer illustrations. And yeah, so I can just walk through a couple of these pages. The first one is a sprint agenda. So this one, she's got templates that, and what's cool about this that I should say is like, you can duplicate these files, but you can make these look however you want. Like that's kind of the cool part about the Figma community and like hosting a file is that I can duplicate this file and now this is like my file. Like I own it, I can make whatever changes, I can style it, however I'd like to match my, perhaps my team branding, whatever it might be. So I think that's a really cool part of like the Figma community. But in this case, we have a sprint agenda here. different stages of course, different logistics, who, when, where, things like that. You can add your sprint challenge there, the thing that you're trying to focus on, your deliverables as well. And also what's really cool about this is like, you can kind of keep this as a point in time, right? So like my team and I could run through this like remote design sprint. We could save this file and we could always come back to it. We could duplicate it again from the community as well if we wanted to start fresh. So beyond that, there are lightning talks in here. There's how might we's. If you've ever done these with your team, these are really cool. So she's got that timer in there as well to really just help you like kind of time box the work that you're doing. She has all of these sticky note components inside, so you can add your name, you can duplicate these sticky notes. She even has like instructions in there on how to do all of that, which is incredible. Vic is like a really, really talented designer, and just how she gets all of this done is beyond me. So I'm pretty
She's
grateful.
also done quite a few different files, right? Like I know that time
She's done
box is
several,
from
yeah.
her, right? And
Yep.
we've got this.
Yeah, she's done this. She just put out a meeting notes file, which we'll walk through in just a moment. Quick preview of that over here. But yeah, she's pretty incredible, and she's putting out a lot of awesome stuff on her own Twitter feed of just like 40. That would be amazing. 3D stuff that she's actually doing, which is pretty fun too. She's like made a couple of Figma recreations over there. So yeah. So all sorts of, how might we's in here, experience mapping. And again, I'm kind of just navigating these based on the pages on the left-hand side. But for this one, I can show you, she actually did something pretty clever where she has like the user in here as this card. You can duplicate this card, you can swap the emoji, you can see all of these different, sample emojis maybe to use for the different pain points or opportunity areas. The idea here is like users could actually click in here, drag an emoji to a sticky note that might resonate with them, or something that might actually be, useful or helpful, or maybe want to follow back on. And she even provides like, things like how long this should actually go on. Like you could of course customize this for your team, but I don't know, when it comes to like Figma files, this is definitely the one that's like the most fully fledged, like thought out, like here's a template for you and your team to run with. And I just know that I appreciated seeing this. And I think a lot of other teams have really appreciated seeing this right now as we're all kind of remote and still figuring out how to be as efficient as possible. So yeah, this is an awesome file. She even has like a user journey flowchart down here. So right? Yeah, she has all these like different labels that you can use in Noodles, and a couple of option nodes as well. You can grab these arrows. I can bring them in here. I can drag them left to right. They're all built with constraints to work as you would expect, which is super cool. So you can drag something like this in here. I can make it a little bit longer if I'd like, and I can actually start to, I can actually start to grab these in and then kind of build out these different flow diagrams, if you will. So it's amazing. I don't know if I've said that yet, but it's a pretty cool file.
No, I don't think you've said it. Only like 8 times now. I do think that it's really interesting too, as I'm noticing, she's got like local styles all set up here as well. So it's not going to be a lot of work for you to switch over to your own typography system. It looks like she's got a lot of components built for this stuff, and she's thought about a lot of these things in a really smart way, like you had said, with constraints and things like that. So it looks like it's really, really polished.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like that's something you can start to do with your team as well. Like we all kind of know styles and creating these things to use in your own design files. But like as you're creating these templates or as you're using other templates, like it's an opportunity just to make them, like it can feel a little bit scary. We're all remote and you're grabbing someone else's file and you're trying to do this exercise that perhaps no one's done before in someone else's file. But if you have the time to like put in a little bit of pre-work to like customize it, make it look like your team, make it feel comfortable, make it look like, or apply your own branding to it, I think that can actually really help. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Like whether it's customizing the colors or the typeface, whatever it might be, or just, possibly even just like grabbing one of these and creating a new file of it. I think that's the coolest part. It's like you get to grab a file, you get to use it for yourself, and then you get to, make any modifications or share it out after. So yeah, this is an awesome one. I'm really grateful she shared this, and it's been awesome to see what other things she's actually putting out there as well. So that is remote design sprinting.
Awesome, and I've already shared that link with everyone in the chat, so they have it now. It will become theirs, and everybody can thank Vic on Twitter because I shared that as well.
Nice, cool. It was kind of fun to see. As soon as I click the heart on here, that count went up. So someone's definitely viewing this, which is pretty cool.
Oh, so cool.
I love the community. Yeah, this is awesome. Cool. All right. So the other one that I wanted to walk through was this is a little bit. This is a hiring exercise template that Noah Levin actually created and put out that was based on Joel Khalifa's talk. And this one's pretty cool because like I would have to imagine like I'm doing interviewing, but I'm not a hiring manager, and I would have to imagine that hiring right now is really tough, right? Like not only to like source and find great candidates as it always is, but also just to kind of like work as a team to evaluate them and understand like are they the right fit? Are we the right fit for them? All of these different things, right? And this template was really built and allows teams and people to like get a better feel for that and to kind of work together and to really just like jot down thoughts on who you're looking for and how to evaluate for the position a little bit better. So I wanted to share this as well. So there are kind of like three parts to this template overall. There's like a phase where you analyze, a phase where you kind of evolve, and a phase where you learn. And what's awesome in this is as I go to the right, kind of the first step in this whole process is, in this case, it's to kind of like select and refine like a list of attributes that you might be looking for. So perhaps you're looking for someone who's really strong visual designer, or someone who is all about design tools, or maybe they have a little bit of like leadership or mentoring experience. You can start to like call these out a little bit more. Whether it's selecting these, and in this case, maybe I'll just add a background to these. I don't know, make them, well, not all of them, but anyways, you could start to like call them out, right? So I could actually select in here, and perhaps I could change this one to like a red if I want. Just ways to like highlight them. Really simple, but I think it's a really awesome starting point. And then the next phase is to go into ranking. So, kind of understanding like your own baseline requirements, the nice to haves, things that maybe aren't needed. And the idea is to actually take these skills and to put them over here and to actually start to sort them in a way that makes sense. And again, kind of a cool part of this is like it's a good starting point, but it's also a way to like document this and to like save this file for the future. I think this is, when it comes to hiring, it's something that we're all like thinking about in our heads of like who might be a great fit or what attributes might be great, but it's often not really easy to kind of like record those, if that makes sense. And I think this is a really solid way to do that. The coolest part perhaps of this template though is if I keep going to the right, there's this kind of like evaluation
Oh
chart, and
yeah,
this is that third step in the
this is
process.
awesome. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this, which is very cool.
Yeah, so it's like this is one of those things that is just like fun to do in Figma, and it's a really nice way to actually start to take those attributes or to take those skills that you're finding after and actually start to like map this out a little bit. So you can see Rogie's here in the file, and you can actually start to like put several of these skills around here. You could reduce or add, a number of lines that make sense, but for this one, you could actually start to like customize, and using the pen tool, you could start to actually like move and kind of shape this to understand like which areas are we feeling a little bit more strongly about, which do we not feel perhaps we need as much of, and all sorts of things like that. So I know that the design team uses this quite a bit at Figma. It's kind of a core part of our hiring process from what I understand, and it's been awesome to see so many duplicates on it as well.
One thing about this too that I really admire the way that Figma does its rendering of vectors and the way that I've seen people use this file. Let's just pretend as if skill one is something meaningful, but I can actually just lay down like just essentially I'm going up, say I'm very good at skill one, I'm going to put a point there like a vector point, but say skill two, I'm kind of good. And Joey, why don't you go ahead and make your own as we're like together? And
Yeah,
obviously these skills mean nothing, but
totally.
let's just there's something to demonstrate here that I really love.
I'm looking for a lot of skill 7 actually.
Yeah, I just imagine you would be a circle, and that circle goes all the way out to the edge.
Totally.
Just
All
the
right, this is
best and
not looking
everything.
great. Let me delete mine. But
All
the
right.
cool part about this is like if I take like Raji, if you don't mind, like if I grab your vector there, yeah, and I apply a filler or something like this, you can start to like style that a little bit and like steal a bit more of like an interactive map, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is the way that I've seen it work. I've seen them apply a little bit of rounding to that. You don't need to. It doesn't need the rounding of the
Yeah.
radius. But let's just say Joey's. So that's mine. This sort of represents my skill levels in various areas. Now, it's all about teamwork, right? So now we've got Joey's, and let's just say Joey's is a version of mine but rotated. Let's just say that's um, maybe the way. So Joey comes in here, he makes his like this, and say Joey's like a blue color. Depending on the skills that you want here, and you can obviously remove points and stuff, you can see what a coverage map looks like here. And so as you move forward in your hires, you can say, I can see here with Joey and Raji's overlaps, we're really missing like a bunch of skill 6 and skill 4. So let's really look for that in our new hires. And I love that. It's the first time I had seen it. I really think it's cool. And I love that we can use
Yeah.
Figma to visualize it.
I've also seen this used in a different way as well. Like it might not be for hiring a candidate, but perhaps you and your team just want to understand, like, all right, what there are four of us, or there are however many of us, and want to start to understand like where does everyone kind of feel the strongest, and you can actually start to use this for yourself. So you could say like, perhaps I'm actually really strong at skill 1, but I lack skill 2. So maybe I'm really strong at like visual design, but I don't have a lot of like product spec work, or product like kind of like definition work. Maybe that's it, right? And you can start to like map this out for yourself. And as you understand as a collective team, like where are our strong points, where are our weak points, where are weak points at, we can start to like make a hire in the future, or we can just understand like where is everyone currently at, and perhaps where do we want to grow like as a collective group, which I think
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
I think this can be really great for just your leads as well, because they can always, say they forget like what your strengths are. They can come in and be like, oh, you know what? I forgot that Raji evaluated himself as like he basically owns skill 1. So let's put Raji on skill 1 projects. We should have really had real names for these skills, but skill 1 works
We
for
can just
me
pretend
today.
skill 1 is illustration. Raji owns illustration.
Yes, Raji's amazing at illustration and visual design, so let's go ahead and put him on that.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
awesome. This is cool.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's just like it's one of those things. It's like it feels a little bit more. It's like maybe you wouldn't think of like using Figma or a design tool to do something like this at first. Perhaps it would just be like a document where you like store all of this. But actually, I think it's kind of clever and gets you thinking about maybe more ways where you could actually use a document like this, or where you could create something like this. So yeah, definitely wanted to show this one off.
Very cool, dude.
Cool. The next one I wanted to walk through, and it looks like I didn't paste this over here, but this one is called Meeting Notes. And surprise, surprise, this one is actually also by Vic, who also created that remote design sprint template. This is kind of a brilliant idea, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to duplicate this file real quick, and this will open up a new tab. And what I can do here, once this loads, is I can actually see a template for meeting notes. So the idea here is, we're all kind of like working in Figma, and we're perhaps like going over different ideas or different like points in the design process, or where our designs are at. And you might be collecting, feedback or notes along the way. And this is an idea kind of beyond dropping comments in Figma to leave notes on the canvas either for yourself or for someone else. And she put a lot of useful things in here. So, of course, like very small fields for the dates, and perhaps like what the topic is. Maybe it's a weekly sync, maybe it's a stand up, maybe it's just like today's notes. But you can actually add like a note taker spot in here. If I want, I can actually go in here and I can customize the avatar. So, perhaps I'll grab my own avatar real quick, and I'll copy this and I'll paste my own in there, which I think will override. Yeah, so I can like put my
Nice.
name in here. Using auto layout, I could just put my own name. This will expand, and we can see, of course, all of our participants as well, kind of based on the category. What's cool about this is with like instance swapping and with auto layout, I could actually duplicate this field a couple of times if I want. And let's say we have both design and engineering and product management in. I can add all of those tags in here. So all I did was duplicate that original instance, copy it a couple times, or copy and duplicate a couple times, and then swap those out, which is pretty cool. This is like one of those cases that's like, auto layout's really helpful for like when you're designing, but it's also really helpful when you're just trying to like add little like note elements to the canvas, or when you're just trying to like have something that you can start to like modify and have be kind of a leavable element. So for an example, down here, she has an action items list. And what I can do is I can actually go in here and I can click these. I could, if I want, I could hide a couple of these. Perhaps I only have 2 action items. I could add those back, or I could actually duplicate these a couple of times, and you'll see our list and our entire frame grows as well. So I could, of course, click in here and I could modify this, like, left or leave feedback for latest version. We could put that in there. We could always build something to swap this out into a finished check mark if we want, or yeah, whatever it might be. So
Hey,
I
Joey, a
just thought
little
this
bit of
is,
feedback for you. Can
yeah.
we get the audio just turned down just a bit on your end?
Yeah, of course. Let's do that. How's that?
That's great.
All right,
Awesome.
nice.
One thing I was noticing as so first of all, this is the first time I've looked at this one as well. Uh, Vic definitely puts like a level of polish. Like everything is done in auto. It's like She used components when you need to use components, but not when you don't. And then everything has been done with auto layout. And then lastly, I I don't know about you, but I hate jumping around to Notion, to paper, to sheets, to this, and I feel so fragmented with Slack, and then
Yeah,
Figma,
totally.
and like
Especially right now, right?
yeah, especially right now. And I feel like I love the idea of doing this in Figma because then I'm just always in Figma. I'm either designing or doing whatever, setting up workshops, doing this. I love
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and the idea is really simple. It's like I can grab one of these, I can customize it for myself, I could copy this, and actually I could go back to that file we were working in earlier, and perhaps I just want to drop that here, and now I've got like a little like scratch pad where I can like add my own notes, add any text or items that I want, and like this could even be turned into a component that's published up to your team library, so everyone can do this, and I think that's a really cool part as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love the idea of just like taking little note components out of there. I think what
Yes.
seems to be true about the community files is that they're always like a treasure trove of things, but you really need to dig in there because it's not just the
Yeah.
cover. There's so many other great things in there.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's like it's so cool to like duplicate a file, but also what I find really interesting is to be able to see how someone put something together. So if I were, brand new and working to with auto layout, like I could actually click in here and I can see like how Vic like structured this auto layout kind of container to hold all of these different action points. I could see, the kind of different spacing that she used. I could customize this for myself. I could start to rebuild this. And I think that's the best part. It's like being able to grab these resources, but also being able to like take a peek behind the curtain and see like how are these things built from the start, and how can I customize them, or how could I even remix them? Maybe I want to put my own like checkmark item in here and like remix this out and share that with others. Well, that's totally something I could do.
That's super cool. We had one question for you. So Artemis brings up the point that like seems without. So Artemis asks, does Figma have any kind of spell check? So yeah, I guess answer that one if you have
Yeah.
any.
Well, I know there's definitely a plugin for this. So let me just go to figma.com/c for community. And in here, you can search for files, which we were just talking about, if you're in the beta. If not, super easy to join. You'll find a request link in there. But I know there's one called Spell, which I use, and it's actually misspelled, which is super clever. There's also Spell Checker as well. So I could really easily install either one of these. And then with that plugin now, I can actually select it for any text, or I could select any text, run the plugin, and then identify any corrections that I want to make.
That's
Do you
super
use
cool. So his
either
follow
of these,
up,
Raji?
what'd you say?
I was just asking if you use either of these, or
I
yeah, or if you
actually
just are
I
comfortable
actually
with.
haven't because I don't use and I never have used Figma as like I'm a little bit like Artemis in the sense that even when I was working at Dribble, uh, we would have people working on copy and that copy would be in another system and then we would sync it up with what was in Dribble. And also I don't care if I misspell things. So like
I
especially
feel
if
like
it's like a
after a
meeting
certain point in
note.
your career, you're like, nah.
Yeah, I skipped that part. I skipped that
Yeah,
part.
I'm
So
still at the point where I have to care a lot.
yeah, let me just search for all the cares that I have.
Yeah.
Uh, there are zero.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, good question. Yeah, this is fun. I'm really glad to be going through this, and like, the point here is also just like there's a lot of resources out there, and if you're looking for something, or if there's something you might need, it's probably available, and if not, like it's a really cool chance to create something. Like, actually, just the other day, I was really inspired by the VIX media notes that we just went over, and I realized, you know what, I use like checklists of my own, and like I actually published something to community, super small again, but it's like maybe someone else will get a little bit of use out of this, so I wanted to share that, and that's the coolest part, I think.
Joey, was that just like your own little like checkbox kind of like? Oh, I'm guessing if you would use it to simulate a to-do list, or what was your reasoning for making that?
Yeah. So I don't want to share my own stuff too much, but like this was just like a little task list item, and you can duplicate this. And the idea in here was, once this loads, is I'll go to examples to kind of show this off. But the idea was really similar. Like I don't take a lot of meeting notes in Figma myself. I usually will put them in the form of comments or just like a text edit doc. But I often really I'll use like checklists. Super like I don't know why my life just revolves around checklists. It's like how I get out of bed in the morning almost. And I typically like use little elements like this. I'll just place them on the canvas just like Vic did. But in this, I wanted to build something similar where you could actually select one of these items. And you can see this one over here is an instance that is currently set to incomplete. But let's say I just knocked this off and I added the prototype, or I added the device type for the prototype. Well, I could go over here and I could mark this now complete. We'll have a check mark, and that'll dim a little bit. So this was just like a resource that I used, and I was thinking, you know what, that's really cool that she shared the meeting notes template with the action items. I kind of just want to share my own little like task list that I use to see if it's helpful for anyone. And it was kind of fun making these like light and dark mode, components where you can swap the emoji if you want to kind of make it your own. And perhaps this is like a to-do list or a today view, whatever it might be. But the idea is really similar, where you could, take several of these tasks and you can hide them, you can show them all if you'd like. So it was just kind of fun to build. Again, this was like inspired by seeing someone else's work, and kind of that open design thing that we're going after was a lot of fun.
I love this. I also just want to draw attention to some of the architecture here. For instance, a lot of times when I've looked at a check item like this that has a checkbox and a label next to it, a lot of times what I've seen in design systems are that you have to actually like double click or triple click to get into the actual
Yeah.
checkbox to then change it out. And I love that you did it in such a way that it's just one instance swap instead of going a couple layers deep.
Yes.
I think that's super duper cool. We're going to be sharing a to-do list plugin, which can help because it's
Yeah.
shared between teams. But one thing that I like about this and I like about Figma is that sometimes plugins or little pop-up windows aren't always the best way to go about things, because this lives right on the canvas with everything. It's right there, center, like front of mind. It's right there for you to see. And I do really love that you'll constantly, as you're designing, you don't have to bring up a plugin. It's just right there and it's simple.
Yeah, it's like fun to create these things, right? Like it's almost like making a tiny little product for others to use, and that's, I don't know. I, for whatever reason, as you know, Roger, like I really enjoy doing that and stuff. And
Yeah,
the
Joey's our
idea too is
resident
like, hey,
file master and auto layout
I love
master.
working on this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I wanted to think about like, all right, you've got this box like this. I just need to be able to single click in here and then choose some list to mark complete and not have to worry about it too much. One thing actually on that note that might be worth calling out is this is a little bit, one of those things that it took a little bit of time for even me to discover in Figma. But if you hold control on your keyboard and right click, you'll actually be able to really easily select into all of the layers that are below where you're clicking. So if I want to, I can really easily highlight this complete layer just by right clicking and holding control, or I could grab that incomplete task and then swap this super easily as well. So I just want to call that out.
That's way cool. Can you repeat that command again just so that I can put this into the chat?
Yeah, of course. It's so whenever you're on something or whenever you're hovering over something, if you just hold control on your keyboard and right click, you can really easily kind of deep click or see all of the layers that are underneath where you're actually clicking to make selecting a little bit easier. So instead of having to, let's say I wanted to change this task, instead of having to hold command and double clicking on this, I could actually just right click, choose that text layer, and now I'm going to edit this. And this is helpful for like, maybe not this example in particular, but if you have a file that, or an instance that has so many nested layers inside, and you just want to get to that one that's at the very bottom, I find that little shortcut to be really helpful.
That's amazing. I also feel like a complete and utter moron because I didn't know that. I have also learned about
Right?
500
Yeah.
tips, but I did not get that one. And Joey and I are working on a set of tips to share with you all. A
Yes.
really, really comprehensive list. We need to add that one. That is
Yes,
great.
we'll add that now. Yeah, I always forget about it, but it really is so helpful. Like, if this is kind of the main component area, and like, if I just come over here and control right click on something, I can really easily grab or find any of these elements, for example. So, yeah, maybe that'll
Wow,
help you
that's
too.
so much better than like 1,800 clicks fatiguing my finger out, just getting
At
deeper
least
and deeper.
1,800 sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
cool. I'm glad I called that out. I'll try to think of others.
That's great. One question I'm just going to answer real quick. Kevin asked, is there a way
Yeah.
to propose changes to community files? Yes, there is. There's a system called Remixing. And
Mhm.
so if you could duplicate,
Yeah.
maybe duplicate
I
this
can
one.
duplicate my own file real quick on a different account to show.
Right. And so the idea here would be that you would duplicate a file on the community. Now you need to be a part of the community beta as
Mhm.
an editor. So definitely sign up for that in order to do this. But the idea and thinking would be then you would go in and change some things, maybe change some colors, change maybe you needed to add something different, or maybe iterate the design in a better way. And then all you have to do is simply go up to share. And then as you see here, Joey uh, chose the publish to community tab. And you can see at the very bottom, it says remixed from. So whoever's the author of that original file will now see your file come up as, hey, they remixed my file. They can go in and look, and it's a little bit like a pull request or something like that
Mhm.
with GitHub. Not quite a pull request because they're not necessarily going to merge it in with one click, but they can certainly go into that file, grab the changes, put them back into the master, and then publish back out to that original file.
Yeah, I had a really cool experience with this. It was kind of my first like forte into like publishing into the community, but also seeing someone remix. Like I made uh, you might remember, like I made a little like resume template, and one thing I didn't include that in that template originally was like bullet points or icons for different things. And we had a couple of members of the community, Bonnie Kate, for instance. She went in there and she grabbed my template. She added her own icons and actually a new layout, and then she chose to remix it. And now what that means is the original one is still available, but anyone could have went and grabbed her remix as well, which just kind of builds on top. And I think that's awesome because it's like, you know what, I didn't have the time to like draw the icons in that particular case, but like she did, and she added those, and it's like just constantly leveling up others' work in a positive way, right? Which I think is super cool.
It's super cool. I was even thinking back before when you were sharing Noah's, like some of these files, like Vix, are very well thought through. Yours as well, with like setting things up in smart ways with auto layout. Now, there's nothing wrong with just publishing a file that is just a great resource that may not have all those like gizmos like auto layout and things
Hmm.
all enabled. But a great thing that you can do as a community member is like, say you see that and you think, hey, I can plus the value of this by going ahead and
Yeah.
adding auto layout. I've literally seen people do that. Just like I just created components in auto layout just to make this a little bit more streamlined,
Hmm.
and that was the remix. That was the change. Uh, and I think that's a great way that we can all work together as communities, so that not everyone has to do the work.
Yeah, it always like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that sounds really nice, right? And then you kind of have it happen to you, and it's like, wait, that's actually really cool. Like I totally, not only like see the value now, but like just to know that someone like took a look at your work, they added something new to it, and then they shared it back out, like kind of under your own name and under your own file, so that others can grab either the original or their remix is I don't know, that was just like that was like a memorable moment, like in terms of like open design and kind of getting started with all of this. So yeah, more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Figma community is just getting started. Like we said, it's in beta, and
Yeah.
hopefully soon we'll be seeing some more releases and updates and more openness with the community, adding more people. Uh, so stay tuned. Hopefully,
Yeah.
one day in the near future, all this is going to be open, and anyone can come in and help each other build something great.
Yeah, there's so many different files in here. Like one that just came to mind was Microsoft actually just published their Fluent library. So they have all sorts of different components in here, and actually in this case, icons. So, I could even done something like, perhaps within back to that like resume template example, like I could have grabbed, I could duplicate this for myself, Microsoft's like Fluent icon system. I could duplicate my resume template, add those icons, and then publish a remix back out. And like all of that is just like free, accessible, available, and like encouraged, which I think is so cool.
Hmm. Yeah, and the licensing structure on the community is such that you have to agree before you publish to be a part of that license. So I would never feel bad about doing something like that and
Yep.
republishing, so long as you add some changes to it that are thoughtful and not
Yeah,
just simply republishing the file.
totally.
I think that's great. Let's hop back in. What do we got next, Joey?
Yeah, so this was another kit that I wanted to go over that we actually had these folks from Mixpanel on a live stream. So it was Mark and Jess over at Mixpanel, two really talented and just like awesome people. So they kind of both help with their team and feedback from their team on the feedback kit. They made this really awesome like resource for everyone. So again, in the Figma community, it's just called Feedback Kit. It's also under Mixpanel. And a quick description of kind of what's going on here, but just for now, I'm gonna like it and duplicate it real quick. And when I duplicate this, I just wanna walk you through like what's inside because it's like up there with Vic. It's pretty incredible. So the first thing is this is kind of an intro to how to use the feedback kit in general. And the idea here is just to make it a little bit easier for everyone to like add their feedback for it to be seen, and to also explore and kind of find new ways to actually like get those words out into those like those points of feedback out for everyone to review, right? Like it's so easy to add a comment, but I think there are so many different ways as well to kind of like put your suggestions forward and different ways to kind of visualize that. And that's exactly what Mixpanel did here. So there are lots of things in this. So they actually made these really cool little like context cards. So this is like one of the most difficult pieces with feedback in general is like making sure that you're sharing what you're actually looking for in that feedback. And they wanted to address that, which I really appreciate. It's really easy to share a link out and be like, hey, this is ready. Can you give me some thoughts? And everyone might be wondering like, well, what thoughts are you looking for? So just a way to like share that context. They also provided these like little kind of early stage or like stage cards, and I could actually instance swap these as well. So this one here is an early stage card, just kind of indicating that. So they have do's and don'ts for things to suggest. So this might be things that they're looking for or not looking for at the moment. But I could really easily swap this to be a mid-stage card. So different do's and don'ts. The bar obviously loads a little bit more. And then number 3 is a late stage card. So this is like just before something's about to go out there, right? And I think it's cool that they included all of these.
I do love,
So
especially if you're brand new at something like this and you're just trying to
yeah,
explore, you're a brand new team. I mean, some of my side projects, like we're a very small team, and so we don't necessarily have this bit of knowledge or scholarship on this. And it's really nice to see that like the mid stage, the late stage, all those, it gives you little ideas of like, don't ask these questions, do ask these. I love that.
yeah, they have all of these little like I don't know, just like even if you don't use the entire kit or if you don't use the kit exactly as maybe intended, like there are so many things you can actually grab out of here. Like they have these different kind of idea cards that are in this case all placed on a quadrant grid where you can have like hard to build on the left, easy to build on the right, hard to use on the bottom, easy to use at the top, and all sorts of like different like categories within these cards. So maybe it's a component idea, documentation, design concept, and you can actually grab these little bubbles for yourself, to indicate like your color and who you are, and add your own avatar and things like that. And yeah, so they have a dot voting system as well. So perhaps like you just want to grab these different dots and kind of indicate, uh, which ones are which ones are resonating most with everyone who's viewing. Just a little bit easier of a way to make decisions kind of as you move forward as a team. They even include instructions. So like, here's the process for this, here's the do's and don'ts, all sorts of things. Dot voting, another one of those mid-stage cards. They have different questions in here. So like questions that you want to ask those who are viewing for feedback. And we'll share this out after, but there's also, if you're curious, if you are on YouTube currently or want to head to YouTube, we have a whole live stream with these folks, and there's a big deck and just kind of everything that they did of walking through like how this is built, why this is built, how they use it in Mixpanel, and yeah, just kind of the reasons behind everything, which I really appreciate. Here's an example really quickly of just those dot cards. So you can actually add these voting kits. I could turn on or off these dots using auto layout again. So this is an auto layout container. I could remove these if I want. So perhaps if this were my card, I could actually just say, you know what, I only want to actually express maybe 0 dots here or 1 dot there. I can really easily do that. And then I can grab this and I can drag this anywhere I'd like. So just a lot of really clever and like kind of creative solutions in here as well. And here's kind of a quick example of what this might look like after the fact.
Yeah, so one question here from Armando. He said, "Are these cards supposed to go in our projects?" And while I think that you can certainly draw from these and put them in your projects and build on the knowledge of them, I just wanted to ask you, Joey, like, what's kind of like the scenario for when you would use something like this file?
Yeah, so I think the scenario is well, first of all, you could absolutely do that, right? Like it's really limitless as far as how you want to use the kind of objects in here. So maybe honestly, maybe there's a scenario where I just want to grab these out of here and I want to use them out of the context of this quadrant grid. I could totally do that, right? Or perhaps maybe I want to grab this entire thing along with these components and I want to place it perhaps next to a feature or a design, just to evaluate, or even like, one thing that could also be helpful is like, maybe you and your team have a spec written up. You want to evaluate that spec a little bit more. You want to talk through ideas. I could even see like, and they shared a world where it's like you share the file, you have everyone in the file, you're walking through that, perhaps that PRD or that spec, and you're actually using kind of the visual tools in Figma and in this kit to evaluate the spec as you're kind of walking through it. So, perhaps you're reading it and you're saying, you know what, that actually seems easy to use, but really hard to build. But you could actually make a note of that in the file, perhaps where the design will actually live in the future. So it's really limitless. Their kind of goal in here is to provide everything and anything. And it's really up to you to know, like, or to discover, what might be most useful as you kind of play around in this.
Yeah, this is something that, and we didn't have this system, which this would have been incredibly valuable for, but I remember I did like a summit with Dribble last year, and basically we had a bunch of different areas where we wanted to improve the product, and then we had time to just come up with random crazy ass ideas. And that's what we did in that early stage is
Yeah.
basically like come up with wild ideas, anything goes. And then as you sort of winnow this thing down, uh, that's when you're starting to vote on like, okay, we really want to do this thing, but let's just see how this fits into
Yes.
our roadmap for the next year. And a lot of times it
Yeah.
was like, well, what if we did this cool, amazing feature? And it's like, everybody votes. This is how we vote, but we can do this remotely now. We actually had to do a summit for this. We're all in a cabin, but we do this all remotely. And we start to realize like, oh, wow, this feature is going to be really hard to implement. It's going to take a long time to implement. And uh, we don't know if we have that amount of time. So it's very helpful. We found it to be very helpful too in our little design sprint thing ideation session. So yeah, this is
That's
great.
really cool. Yeah, I was even just quickly kind of panning through. They have this section at the end of the file with all of kind of the contenders for the cover that they used when they actually published this to community, and you can actually see they were using their little like comment bubbles to actually add some feedback for each one of these. So you can actually see,
That's
like,
cool.
right, you can see the process of I haven't seen this before. I thought that was really clever. Like, you can see the process of how they were thinking about something as simple but also like as complex as these kind of covers, just to make sure that they were clear and easy to understand. So this just like shows the level of detail that Jess and Mark go through and that entire team. So
So cool.
this is a file worth having. And maybe it's worth mentioning too, like, we're showing a lot of things today and you might discover a lot of things in the community. One thing I do is I actually make a project that's just like, I call it resources, and I put all of these little like findings and files in there for a day where I might need them. It can be a little bit hard to like keep track of things or your liked items, and this is one of those things I immediately duplicated and stored in there for a day when I might want to pull something out. So maybe that could also help you as well.
I do the same, but especially with like really hard to pull off techniques, like maybe it's like multiple
Yes.
nested auto layout things, and I'm like, damn, that person's a badass. How
Yeah.
did they pull that off? I just like I steal it. I'm like, I grab that little
Yeah.
thing and I put it in there, and I'm like, this is my
Totally.
little reference doc for becoming a
Yep.
Figma god.
Like, I know I'm going to need this one day. I don't need it right now. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the feedback kit.
Rad.
So speaking of like, oh, go ahead, Raji.
Oh, nothing. Nothing. I'm just following along.
Cool. I was gonna make a dorky transition, but like, speaking of feedback, one thing that is really clever that I've been using as well, and not just because he works on our team, Tom Lowry, but he actually made this status annotations plugin, and this is super cool because, all right, we're all in a file. You're taking a look, maybe it's your own file, maybe you're looking at someone else's file, and you're just trying to catch up on like their work and their progress. But it can be a little bit hard or tough to understand, like, where are they at in their design? What's ready for review? What's been approved? Like, what's actually going in development, right? And right now, like, a lot of us will just place a little text box. Maybe we'll put like an emoji in that in that frame name or that page name. But I thought this is a really cool solution. So this is a plugin called Status Annotations. And how it works is, let me go back to our page over here. And on this page, I have the plugin installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a couple of things. So thanks, Raji.
Yeah, I
So
gave you
let's
some
imagine
frames.
there. Yes, thanks. Nice colors. So let's imagine, we have like 3 different design directions here, and I want to actually run that plugin. So all I have to do is select all of the objects that I want to kind of use that plugin to interact with. And I could right click, I'll choose plugins, and then from the list, I'm going to find status annotations. And in this case, I'll choose status annotations here. And this is where I can actually choose which ones or which like status I want to apply to all of these frames. Now, the really cool part is you can actually customize these. So Tom, in his plugin, actually linked uh, the repo for in GitHub where this is actually stored. And if you want to fork it and actually come up with your own annotations or insert your own icons, you can totally do that. And I just thought that was really awesome to include. So just to show you how it works, let's say all of these are currently in progress. I'll select the in progress annotation, and you'll see right away at the very top of these is a little annotation on the canvas that's currently placed in like a group that's locked, just so they're never overridden by accident. And you can actually see these, and you can see on the canvas, and like a PM could come into your file and they could really easily see, which perhaps like which designs are ready to go, which have been approved, which are in development, things like that, which I thought was super cool.
One thing to add too is I can come in here. Obviously, I've also got this
Mhm.
thing running as well. And so let's say with this pink frame in the middle that I'm like, oh, this is approved. I'm Joey's PM or whatever. I go ahead and approve it. You can see here that that's changed. So I could approve it, put in a little comment bubble. Hey, Joey, this is awesome. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Or you can also do things like, hey, this one's ready for development. This is the one we want to develop. And so we can change that. Also, additionally, if for some reason, and maybe you can showcase this one, Joey, if for
Yeah.
some reason I move this frame, which happens all the time as designers, but now you've seen that that status annotation is like kind of floating way out and it's lost from
Yes.
the frame, what would you do, Joey?
So this would be a problem before, and I would have to grab this, I would have to unlock the layer, I'd have to move it. But what you can actually do is you can right click, you can go to plugins again, choose status annotations, and then just do refresh annotations. And it'll say at the very bottom how many annotations were updated. And now if I zoom in, you can actually see this is still attached to that frame. Again, so cool, super clever, and just kind of repositioned. So you could resize this frame, you could move it, you could do whatever you want with it. You could run that refresh annotations menu option and you'll get something like this.
Super cool.
So great, right?
Tom's the plugin
Like,
master. If Tom's the plugin master, Joey's one of the file masters that we have. So
Tom is thoughtful in life and also in Figma. And it's super cool to see something like this.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I like this one a lot. So that was status annotations, and again, a plugin that you can install for yourself by Tom. So the next one that I wanted to showcase, and this was something that came out of our most recent kind of Maker Week that we had as a company. So Maker Week is a time for all of us to come together and to work on anything we want, as long as it kind of makes Figma as a whole better. And one thing that Noah Levin, our director of design, worked on was a plugin called Web Cards. And Rogie, have you used this one yet?
I have. I was really excited about it just because I love magic technology. I love things like Dropbox
Right?
Paper when you just put in a Twitter link and all of a sudden it auto embeds the tweet. Like I love that. I love that I don't have to go search for that text. It just makes life so easy. And Noah's idea was essentially that. I can't wait for you to show it off. It is really rad. He did a great job.
Yeah. So to show how this works and to give you a quick highlight, so basically what it is, it's a plugin, you can run it, you can paste a link in, and then it'll generate an element on the canvas with a lot of like that graph data inside. So what I can do is I'll go back to our file that we were working on before. Let's go to web cards over here. And I have a link copied to the clipboard. I was looking at something on Target earlier, and I actually haven't tested this, so I want to see if this works. So I'm going to right click, I'll choose plugins, and I will choose, let's see, here we go, web cards. And then you'll see by default, it's Google. I could actually paste my target URL in there. I could create a card and let's see what happens. All right, so in this case, there's no image. That's okay, I'll show you one with an image as well. But this has a title inside, a description, and then actually the link for where you wanna go or where you could actually visit that. So yes, thanks Roger for bringing this in. So this is a tweet, so same thing. We grabbed the plugin, we pasted that link in there, it generated this card. And what's really cool is these are all built with auto layout. So let's say I actually just want to, perhaps I want to hide the actual tweet content or the description in this case. I could hide that. The card's going to readjust. Or if I want to, maybe I want to hide the image, I can do that. I can expand the image, really do whatever I may like in this card. And I just think that's awesome. I started actually using these. I've been building files for just for customers in general and trying to hand them off resources and try to put things together. And one thing that I like to do now is I'll actually take in different Figma resources that we have. I'll run the plugin, I'll paste those links in there. That way they have a resource to go to and it's right inside the file. So this could be used for, whether it's general inspiration, perhaps you want to collect things. Maybe it's for like external links that you want to bring into Figma, kind of using our new link function as well as this ability. I just think it's such a clever, fun thing.
Yeah, I was
Yes, Roger,
experimenting
thanks for
with
bringing this
like
in.
what is it like when it brings in just an account, or this is actually like an Instagram post, like a single image,
Mhm.
and I was just trying to figure this out, like what, and I believe it's working like Open Graph tags or using Open
Yeah.
Graph tags, so it's like a standard. So most apps out there should be able to import something. It's really cool. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see like if there's a favicon, that'll pull that in here. It'll pull in the link as well. One cool thing about links is I can actually select this link, and if I choose the link option, it'll automatically paste that link right in there. And I can actually use this and grab that out, which is pretty cool. And now I've got a linkable card in here where I could actually open that link. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways to use this. And you could even imagine like, we've got all of these elements here, but if I want to, I could select all of these. I can make a new auto layout group if I would like. Perhaps I want to sort all of these at the top, or maybe I just want to actually sort these vertically. Well, I can start to build this really nice kind of like grid out of all of these inspiration items or resources.
Totally. I think that ways that for instance, like projects that I've worked on before, oftentimes, let's say we're like for Super Team Deluxe, we're working on new product ideas. And in doing that, we do a lot of research. And a lot of times we're pinning, right? We're on Pinterest, we're putting that into Pinterest, or we're putting into a Notion doc and we're just slapping some images in there. The problem is really when I come back to design work, really I'm back in Figma or I'm back in Illustrator. And so in this situation, I love the idea, especially if with this linking feature here with new Figma links, I love the idea that it's all in the same spot for me. Like I've got my inspiration here. I know where the inspiration came from. And I've got links to those things, information about those things, as well as I can work on my design with all those things right there.
Yep. It's like just another like thing to use Figma for, which is pretty cool. Like this is such a brilliant idea to like take a link, paste it in, and grab the information that's available. Kind of jealous I didn't think of it, but it's such a cool plugin
I
to
can't
write,
believe
right?
I never thought of it either. No,
I know.
go figure, Noah. Nice work.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So yeah, this is awesome. And again, this one is available, and it's a plugin that you can grab. And yeah, it's called Web Cards. So feel free to experiment around with it a little bit.
So cool.
Cool. So I know, Rogie, how are we on time? I want to make sure, and I
think
also want to show off some
we've got about 5 minutes. And so first of all, we've got a bunch of great resources, but before we move on and like share a few more, I would love to know if y'all have any questions. Any questions at all? Office hours, we always leave a little bit of time at the end if you're feeling curious. Is that a word? Curious with a query? No, I doubt it is.
I think it is if you say it on live stream.
It is for sure. It is now a new word. So if y'all have any questions right now, we'd love to take the time to answer anything. So we'll just kind of pause for a second in deep reflection as we wait for your questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just show a few things. Super simple.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blaze through. Let's do this. Let's blaze through. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. All right. So the first thing is this Kanban board. There's a lot of Kanbans on the Figma community. I'll go ahead and just share this one. This one's by Los Montoya. Really, really amazing Figma community member. This one's a dark mode one, so it's cool and all nice.
Yes.
The cool thing about as soon as auto layout was released is that things like your own Kanban were possible. So see this this task here. What if I needed to move it down here? Well, there it is. And what if I needed to move it over here into the done category? Or I needed to swap out these labels and get different labels. It's all possible. He's also got this notion of this nested sort of shorter little task, and that's for like a subtask. Now, I know this isn't as good as maybe a Kanban board where you're able to like search and filter and all that, but if you need something simple for like a inbox prioritized doing ready for review done, I think this works really well in Figma. So you can see here that I can actually use auto layout to align left and right. Now remember, this is great if you actually want to simulate having your own mini Kanban here and actually use it for moving your tasks along the way. But it's also great as a resource if you just want to design a Kanban board and you'd like to be able to have a great starting point. All these files on the community are free to duplicate, mess around with, change the colors, change your fonts. So like I said, we don't have a ton of time, but I want to just breeze through that really quick. Any comments about that from you, Joey?
I think that one is like just kind of blew my mind with auto layout and the ability to instance swap and like the resizing. I just thought it was really cool. So even if you don't use it for that exact purpose, I think it inspires a lot of other ideas too.
For sure, for sure. One, and this isn't necessarily something, It can be used for teams. It can also be used for yourself. Two really little handy things that I've always loved is an app called To Do and an app called Notes. So To Do, I'm going to go ahead and just slam in both of these here. There's Notepad, and then here's To Do. So notes are pretty easy, and I wanted to showcase how we could do this with Joey in here. So Joey, if you go over to your screen, do you see something in the right-hand sidebar that says View Notes?
Oops, sorry. Yeah, I totally do.
So I believe that this, I forget what it's called, Joey, maybe you can help me, but it uses like a plugin relaunch API. I believe that's what it is. And the relaunch API basically attaches data to your document so that when somebody else comes into the document, they can see the plugins that you're using. I love this thing because that means that Joey can see this, or say like on the Figma Catan file where it's actually a playable version of Catan, of Settlers of Catan, you can actually see the plugins and be like, oh, okay, I need to get game table and I need to get dice. So notice here, here's View Notes. We can both add in notes here together. Now, the way that I've also used this is To Do. So in this case, here's my to-do list, and I say, Joey, draw something. That's your thing to do. Rogie, draw some type. So I can leave this open here, and as Joey and I are kind of working and collaborating together, I can write some types. As you can see, my type here is beautiful and glorious. And Joey, really great little geometric shape. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to post it to Dribble later.
That's great. And then I can also come here and I can just check off my thing as well here. I can also reorder these things in this to-do list. As far as a simple to-do list goes, I think this is great. If you need anything more extensive with categories or things like that, hey, maybe that's not for you. But I do love this because a lot of times I will be in this file and I'll go ahead and add all my to-dos for this file. It could be like, make sure you color correct this, make sure you change up the typeface, make sure you choose this, and I can just put all those to-dos and they're related to that file.
Super cool, yeah. I love stuff like this, like whether it's just like task tracking or just like the ability to have in Figma again is so cool.
I know, I love that the plugin API allows you to like write to the screen. So this next one I'm going to share, and Joey, if you would hop into the time box and timer, I believe this is by Vic as well. This time box file at least. So we'll go ahead and show you time box. Time box is just a stylized version of a timer. So let's show you the most simple version of this. A timer is simply like a bit of text with a time in it. Now, if you use the plugin called Timer, and I'll go ahead and link y'all to that. And I'm just going to get at that plugin really fast. I'm going to select that text. Now, Timer, this little plugin, it uses that text object. I'm going to Command / and type in Timer. I'm going to go ahead and just run it. Now, this file just got an update. It now has a start and a reset in it. But if I hit start, you can see that it'll actually start counting down. So this works out great for team exercises.
And I can see that as well, which is just so cool.
Right, that's what I was saying about how I love that it writes to the canvas, because once you can write to the canvas here, then everybody can see this. So we've used this to host like design sprints or like little mini, like, hey, everybody draw this silly item. But also this works out great for like we've done with Figmatch, we've done like, here's a prompt, everybody gets 15 minutes. Let's see who gets somewhere faster. This is such a simple plugin, but also really powerful in how you use it. So let's check out this really rad little clock. What if I want something more stylized? I'm gonna come into this clock and change this font just because I don't have that font. Eee, what did I do? I'm struggling hard with my font choices.
It's okay.
There we go. All right,
Nice.
So we're gonna go ahead and Joey, give me a time.
Let's do 5 seconds, or I don't know, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do 5 seconds.
5 seconds. There it is. 5 seconds. Okay. Once again, now remember, you're going to need to select this layer. They've got a little bit of instructions here. You can't just select this timer box, although I am very curious if they actually did that. I'm just going to try it to see if it sniffs it out. It does not sniff out the text layer. So Let's try again. Now with that text layer
Nice.
selected, here it goes down. Done.
So cool.
Yeah, super cool. So that's Timer, and so Timers by Leonard Thomas, and then Vic created Timebox, so you can have those oh so beautiful visualizations of those things. I think we've got one last thing, and I think we can squeeze it in. I'm gonna slap it in here. So I'm just gonna search here. It just came up. This is gonna be more in the fun category. So I don't know if any of you saw Monument Valley Level Design Kit by Alex. Let's go ahead and check that out. And I'm just going to invite Joey to this file. So let's invite Joey. All right, Joey, I invited you to this file.
Got it.
All right, so at first glance, this seems, so first of all, the isometric work here is like crazy cool. Yeah, it's way cool, but the way that Alex thought about setting this thing up is so clever. So if I go to this tests area, actually, let me see if I can do it over here in the demo. Yeah, here's the demo. So let's say this spire looking thing here, I want to make it taller. This is all built with auto layout too, and it's super duper smart. So say I drag this thing in here. This is like dragging an object into an auto layout thing, but you can see that I'm actually building, watch me duplicate this. I'm actually building a taller tower. And then if I wanted to swap out instances of things, I could go ahead and swap out instances. But I can also delete objects out and put different things in here, like this this cap, this top. It's super, super well made. I wanted to just share this at the end because I feel like it's like a fun thing that you could do with your team. Like, hey guys, here's the building blocks. Let's go ahead and have some fun together and create a little city.
This is like one of those like perfect like Friday activities.
Or in COVID's case, like any day from Monday to Friday.
Yeah, exactly. So impressive though.
Super impressed. Now check this out, just to show like some of the auto layout stuff. Let me see if I can get to the spire. You can see, woohoo!
Nice.
Yeah, I could just do fun stuff with this, fun stuff. And also showcasing Figma as a illustration tool. Mm-hmm. I was sharing with my friend Justin Mazel the other day about like auto layout and using auto layout in illustration work, and he was going, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Now every time I'm in Illustrator, I'm like, I wish I had auto layout."
Right?
It's cool. It's cool. You can do crazy things with it. So, all right. Well, this is it for us. If you've got any questions, this one's been super fun. Joey, thanks so much for prepping this stuff. All these files. I'm going to share your. Do you want to talk about your Notion doc really quick?
Oh, yeah, sure. So this is a Notion page that we created, and it's over at remoteresources.design. That'll redirect you over to Notion. And in here, we have a lot of these files. We also have even more, actually. So there's a link to our Slack group that you can join, our Slack workspace that you can join. We have all of the templates that we shared today. There are even more multiplayer activities inside. So things like checkers, tic-tac-toe, trash dinosaur, virtual quiz, Tetris even. We have plugins that can be helpful, including the one that we showed today from Tom. And then all of our previous YouTube like webinars as well that are on YouTube, I should say. So if you want to check out even the one about giving feedback from Mixpanel, that one is linked in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for putting that together, Joey. Like, it's been a really great resource for the community. There's a lot of great things, and people are creating so many cool files to connect as a team with this really powerful tool. Thanks for being on, man. I always love having you on. You always have
Thanks for having me.
I learned a really cool tip, and I'm a designer advocate. I learned about the command right-click thing, and I'm completely...
Control right-click.
Yes. Well, look, I didn't even learn it. Control right-click. Thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And it's always cool to be on these, and it's fun just to walk through. Like, I feel lucky to walk through things that other people are making. So
yeah. It's been great. The community is awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks everyone for coming in.
Yeah.
We will be doing office hours next week at Wednesday again at noon my time. I think it's 11 a.m. Pacific. And so hopefully see you then. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Office hours are closed.
Thanks, everyone.